The rain-slicked streets of Portland gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins of molten silver. But inside Harlan's books, the air hung heavy with the scent of damp wool and unspoken accusations. Ethan froze mid-step, his fingers still curled around the edge of a leather-bound copy of The Great Gatsby. As the manager's voice sliced through the quiet like a switchblade, "Hey, you! Hands off the merchandise, thief!" In that heartbeat, the world narrowed to the manager's flushed face and the gasp from the lone customer by the mystery aisle. A man whose eyes, wide with shock, locked onto Ethan's like they were the only anchor in a storm about to break. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs, a wild drumbeat that drowned out the patter of rain against the shop's fogged windows. He was 32, lean from years of hauling crates of second-hand novels up creaky stairs, with dark hair that curled rebelliously at the nape of his neck and eyes the color of aged whiskey. Eyes that had seen too much loss to flinch easily. But this was a fresh cut, raw and unexpected. Harlan's Books wasn't just a store. It was his sanctuary, pieced together from the shattered remnants of his late uncle's legacy. Uncle Harlan had left it to him 5 years ago, a dusty haven in the heart of Portland's Alberta Arts District, with its mismatched shelves groaning under the weight of forgotten stories. Ethan had poured every dime from his graphic design gigs into keeping it afloat, turning it into a queer-friendly nook where locals could browse LGBTQ+ lit without side-eye from passers-by. And now, here he was, browsing his own damn inventory incognito because he'd forgotten his keys in the back office after a late-night inventory count. He'd slipped in through the employee entrance, hoodie up against the drizzle, intending to grab a title for a customer who'd called earlier. No fanfare, no announcement, just Ethan being Ethan, quiet and unassuming. The manager, a burly guy in his late 40s named Rick, barreled toward him from behind the counter, his face a thundercloud of misplaced righteousness. Rick had only been on the job 3 months, hired on a tip from a temp agency after Ethan's last manager bailed for a corporate gig in Seattle. Ethan had liked Rick's resume on paper, solid retail experience, glowing references, but in person, there'd been an edge, a subtle stiffness around the edges of conversations about the store's Pride Month displays. Ethan had chalked it up to small-town transplant jitters. Portland wasn't exactly Boise, but old habits died hard. "Put it down, now," Rick barked, his voice echoing off the high ceilings adorned with fairy lights Ethan had strung up last Christmas. "You think you can just waltz in here during closing and help yourself? Security's on speed dial." Ethan's grip tightened on the book, not out of defiance but sheer disbelief. The lone customer, that guy by the mysteries, stepped forward, his brow furrowed in confusion. He was maybe Ethan's age, with tousled auburn hair and a jawline that spoke of quiet determination, dressed in a faded flannel shirt over a band tee for the National. There was something familiar about him, a flicker of recognition Ethan couldn't place amid the adrenaline spike. "Wait, Rick, is there a problem?" the man asked, his voice steady but laced with concern. He glanced at Ethan, those green eyes searching, pulling him in like a lifeline. Rick shot him a dismissive wave. "Stay out of it, Jamie. This guy's been eyeing the register like it's his next meal. Probably boosting stock for the pawn shop down the block." Jamie. The name clicked then. Jamie Callahan, the illustrator who'd wandered in 2 weeks ago looking for art reference books on Urban Decay. They'd chatted over lattes from the cafe next door, Ethan recommending a stack of graphic novels while Jamie sketched idly on a napkin. A spark, maybe, in the way Jamie's laugh had warmed the chilly autumn air. But life had gotten in the way. Deadlines, supplier delays, and Ethan hadn't followed up. Now here he was, witness to Ethan's unraveling dignity. Ethan set the book down slowly, deliberately, his hands visible as if surrendering to an invisible gun. "Rick," he said, voice low and even, though it trembled at the edges. "It's me, Ethan, your boss." The words hung there, absurd in their simplicity, like a punchline to a joke no one had told. Rick's momentum faltered, his meaty fist unclenching as confusion rippled across his features. "What? No, Ethan's not. You're not." He trailed off, eyes darting to the hoodie, the jeans splattered with rain, the lack of the usual keys jangling from Ethan's belt loop. Jamie exhaled sharply, stepping closer, his presence a buffer against the awkwardness thickening the air. Rick, ease up. This is Ethan Hale. He owns the place. I've met him. Hell, half the neighborhood has. Rick's face drained of color, then flushed beet red. A cocktail of embarrassment and something darker. Resentment, maybe, or the sour bite of a worldview cracking under pressure. He stammered, Shit, I didn't recognize you. You look different without the vest. I thought you were some junkie casing the joint. The insult landed like a slap, casual homophobia wrapped in concern. Ethan had heard it before, in hushed tones from family back in rural Ohio, in the sideways glances when he held hands with boyfriends in less forgiving towns. But here, in his store, it stung deeper. A betrayal from someone he'd trusted to guard this fragile world he'd built. It's fine, Ethan lied, forcing a tight smile as he shrugged off the hoodie, revealing the faded Harlan's book's tee beneath. Just a mix-up. Lock up when you're done, Rick. I'll see you tomorrow. He grabbed his forgotten keys from the office, the weight of the brass familiar in his palm, and pushed out into the rain without another word. The door chimed behind him, a mocking jingle that followed him down the block to his apartment above a taqueria, where the scent of sizzling carnitas did little to warm the chill settling in his bones. Upstairs, Ethan stripped off his wet clothes and sank onto the worn leather couch that had been Harlan's, nursing a mug of chamomile tea that tasted like regret. The apartment was a mosaic of his life. Sketches from ex-lovers pinned to the fridge, a shelf of dog-eared poetry by Auden and Whitman, a photo of him and Harlan at last year's Rose Festival, arms slung around each other in matching rainbow pins. Harlan had been the first man to show Ethan what family could mean beyond blood. The gruff uncle who'd caught him kissing a boy in the barn at 16 and, instead of yelling, just handed him a beer and said, "Love's love, kid. Don't let 'em tell you different." But Harlan was gone now, taken by a heart attack 2 winters back, leaving Ethan to navigate the grief alone. The store was his tether, a place where stories bridged the gaps words couldn't. Tonight, though, it felt like a cage. A knock rattled the door, soft but insistent. Ethan set down the mug, peering through the peephole. Jamie stood there, umbrella in one hand, a paper bag in the other, rain dripping from his lashes like unshed tears. "You okay?" Jamie asked when Ethan opened up, his voice muffled by the downpour. He held out the bag steaming takeout from the faux spot on the corner. "Figured you might need this. And company, if you're not sick of faces from the store." Ethan hesitated, the vulnerability gnawing at him. But there was something in Jamie's gaze, open, unguarded, that cracked his resolve. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. "Before you drown out there." They ate cross-legged on the floor, faux broth warming the room as Jamie filled the silence with easy talk. His latest commission for a mural on a food truck, the way Portland's fog made everything feel like a noir film. Ethan listened, the knot in his chest loosening thread by thread. Jamie didn't pry about Rick, but when the conversation lulled, he reached across the empty bowls, his fingers brushing Ethan's knee. "That wasn't okay, what he said," Jamie murmured. "You deserve better than being treated like an intruder in your own life." Ethan met his eyes, the contact electric, a quiet promise blooming in the space between them. "Yeah," he whispered. "I do." The rain tapered off as they talked into the night, stories weaving like vines. Jamie's coming-out road trip from Spokane. Ethan's first design job that paid enough for a one-way ticket west. By midnight, when Jamie stood to leave, their goodbye lingered at the door, hands clasping longer than necessary, breaths mingling in the threshold glow. "See you at the store?" Jamie asked, a half-smile tugging his lips. "Count on it," Ethan replied, the words tasting like hope. But dawn brought no such grace. Ethan arrived early, the shop still shrouded in pre-dawn hush, to find Rick waiting by the counter, arms crossed like a barricade. "We need to talk," Rick said, voice gruff but edged with unease. Ethan nodded, flipping the closed sign and leading him to the back room stacked with unsorted donations. "About last night." "Not just that," Rick interrupted, pulling a crumpled flyer from his pocket. It was a printout from a local forum, anonymous screed against those types pushing deviant books on kids. The store's address was circled in red. Found this taped to the door this morning. And it's not the first. Shipments going missing, bad reviews popping up online. I think someone's targeting us because of, you know. Ethan's stomach twisted. The threats had been whispers before, vague emails, a slashed tire last spring, but this felt pointed at escalation. Us meaning me, he corrected quietly. Because I'm gay, Rick. Say it. Rick shifted, discomfort etching lines around his mouth. Look, I ain't like that. But maybe we tone it down, the rainbow flags, the event nights. Keep it neutral. For business. The suggestion landed like gravel in a wound. Neutral. As if Ethan's identity was a marketing ploy to be shelved. This store is what it is because of who I am, Ethan said, voice steady despite the tremor. Harlan built it for everyone, but especially for folks like us. If that's a problem. It's not. Rick cut in too quickly. Just protecting what you've got. You're the boss, after all. The irony twisted like a knife, but Ethan let it slide, chalking it up to ignorance rather than malice. They parted uneasily, Rick manning the register while Ethan restocked the front, his mind drifting to Jamie's laugh, the way his touch had lingered. Mid-morning brought a rush. Artists from the district grabbing sketchpads. A book club debating Giovanni's room. Jamie slipped in around noon, casual as ever, a sketchpad under his arm. Brought you something? He said, sliding a doodle across the counter. A whimsical portrait of Ethan amid swirling pages, all sharp lines and soft shadows. Ethan's cheeks warmed. This is incredible. How'd you? Talent. Jamie grinned, leaning in. And a good memory. Dinner tonight? My place. I've got a killer view of the Willamette. Before Ethan could answer, the bell chimed again, admitting a cluster of college kids. Among them was a wiry guy with a man bun, eyes flicking suspiciously over the shelves. Ethan didn't think much of it until closing, when he found the cash drawer short $200. Petty cash from the donation jar for the local shelter. Rick's face darkened as they counted. Told you, it's those types hanging around. Ethan shot him a look. Don't start. But doubt crept in, insidious as fog. The next day, more trouble. A shipment of queer romance novels lost in transit. Per the carrier. Online, the store's rating dipped, laced with one-star rants about pushing agendas. Ethan confided in Jamie over pad thai at his loft, a converted warehouse space alive with canvases and the hum of the city below. Someone's gunning for you, Jamie said, brow furrowed as he twirled noodles. But why? Harlan's was a staple. People love it. Ethan shrugged, the weight pressing heavier. Maybe it's me. The flags, the story hours for trans kids. Portland's progressive, but not everyone's on board. Jamie's hand found his across the table, thumb tracing circles on Ethan's knuckles. Then fight it. With this. He nodded to the sketch, now propped on the fridge. You're not alone, Ethan. Not anymore. That night, tangled in Jamie's sheets scented with turpentine and cedar, they crossed into something deeper. Kisses like confessions, bodies mapping vulnerabilities with reverence. It was tender, unhurried, a balm against the world's sharp edges. Afterward, lying with Jamie's head on his chest, Ethan felt the stirrings of possibility, a future sketched in broad strokes. But betrayal has a way of erasing lines. The following week unfolded like a taut wire, humming with undercurrents Ethan couldn't quite name. Business held steady, buoyed by the district's pre-holiday buzz. Folks bundling up against November's bite for hot cider and first editions. Jamie became a fixture, his mural commissions pulling him away but always circling back. Coffee runs that stretched into afternoons, walks along the Burnside Bridge where their hands brushed like secrets. Ethan hired a part-time clerk, Lena, a sharp-witted non-binary barista from the cafe next door, to ease the load. She clocked Rick's stiffness immediately, cornering Ethan in the break room with a raised eyebrow. That guy's got a chip on his shoulder the size of Mount Hood. You sure about him? He's competent, Ethan replied, though doubt gnawed. Rick handled orders flawlessly, kept the floors spotless, but his small digs accumulated, like suggesting they skip the drag queen reading this month, or eyeing Jamie's sketches with a sniff. One crisp Tuesday, as frost etched the windows like lace, Ethan arrived to find Rick poring over ledgers in the office, brow slick with uncharacteristic sweat. "Everything all right?" Ethan asked, hanging his coat. Rick startled, slamming the book shut. "Yeah, fine. Just discrepancies. Inventory's off again. Those missing romances? Turns out they were here logged wrong. My bad." Ethan waved it off, but the unease lingered. That evening, Jamie dragged him to a gallery opening in the Pearl District, a riot of neon abstracts and clinking glasses. Amid the crowd, Ethan confessed his worries, the words spilling like wine. "It's like the store's cursed, or I'm jinxing it." Jamie pulled him into a shadowed alcove, lips brushing his temple. "You're building something real, Ethan. That's scary for some people. But look at us. This is real too." Their kiss there, fierce and fleeting, drew a few approving nods from passers-by. But as they emerged, Ethan's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Keep pushing your filth and Harlan's burns." Attached was a grainy photo of the store's front, time-stamped last night. Heart-pounding, Ethan showed Jamie. "We call the cops." "No," Ethan said, pocketing it. "Not yet. It'll scare off customers, make it worse. I need proof." Jamie argued, but relented, his protectiveness a warm armor. They reported it anonymously to a community watch group instead, then lost themselves in the night's anonymity, dancing to indie tracks in a dive bar, bodies close against the chill. Back at the store, paranoia took root. Ethan installed a cheap security cam, its red light a vigilant eye. Rick noticed, grumbling about Big Brother vibes, but Ethan brushed it aside. Then came the betrayal's first fracture. It was a Thursday, gray skies spitting sleet, when Lena burst into the office mid-shift, face pale. "Boss, you gotta see this." She thrust her phone under his nose. A screenshot from a private Facebook group, Portland Real Talk, where users vented about woke businesses ruining the city. There, pinned atop a thread, "Harlan's is ground zero for the rainbow invasion. Manager knows the dirt. Time to shut it down." Ethan's blood ran cold. "Manager. Singular. Rick," he breathed. He confronted him at closing, the shop empty save for the hum of fluorescence. "You in that group? Talking shit about your own workplace?" Rick's denial was a wall of bluster. "Hell no. I don't do social media. Someone's framing me, or you." But the seed was planted, doubt festering like damp rot. Ethan reviewed the cam footage that night, alone in the office with a bottle of Harlan's old bourbon. Hours blurred. Customers milling, Lena shelving, Jamie dropping off sketches with a wink. Then, late 2 a.m., a shadow at the back door. Rick, slipping in with a key Ethan hadn't authorized, rifling through boxes, stuffing envelopes into his coat. The footage looped in Ethan's mind as he drove to Jamie's, arriving at dawn with hollow eyes. "It's him," he said, collapsing onto the couch. "Stealing stock, probably selling it online. And the threats? To cover his ass. Make me back off." Jamie enveloped him, strong arms a haven. "Proof. We got proof now. Confront him. Fire him. End this." But firing Rick meant more than severance. It meant unraveling the fragile trust Ethan had extended, the humanistic gamble on second chances. Harlan's voice echoed in his head. "People fuck up. Kid. Doesn't make 'em monsters." The next day, Ethan called Rick in early, the air thick with unsaid accusations. "I saw the footage. The break-ins. It's you." Rick deflated, shoulders slumping like a punctured tire. Yeah, debts, man. Ex-wife cleaned me out in the divorce. Needed cash quick. Didn't think you'd notice." "And the forum? The threats?" Rick's eyes widened, genuine shock. "No, swear it. I lurked there once, vented about the ex, but nothing about the store. Someone else is playing you." Ethan wanted to believe him, the plea in Rick's voice tugging at his empathy. Against Jamie's advice, He suspended Rick pending investigation. No cops, just a chance to come clean. Get your shit together, Ethan said, or you're out. Rick nodded, gratitude warring with shame. Won't happen again, boss. Promise. For a fragile week, peace held. Rick returned subdued, double-checking locks, even helping Jamie hang a new exhibit of queer artists' prints. Ethan and Jamie deepened. Weekend hikes in Forest Park, where leaves crunched underfoot like whispered endearments. Quiet evenings curating playlists of Sufjan Stevens and Hozier, bodies entwined in the afterglow of shared dreams. Ethan dared to envision it. A life where the store thrived, Rick reformed, love solidified. But betrayal, once cracked open, rarely seals neatly. Shattered on a Friday night, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. The store hosted its annual Stories Under the Stars event. A bonfire reading in the alley, blankets and s'mores for bundled locals. Jamie emceed, his voice weaving tales of resilience. Ethan manned the cider, stealing kisses in the shadows. Midway, as a poet recited verses on found family, Ethan's phone lit up. Another anonymous text. Enjoy the fire. Yours next. Seconds later, shouts from the alley. Smoke billowing, flames licking the dumpster mere feet from the group. Panic erupted. Folks scrambling, Jamie herding kids to safety. Fire trucks wailed in the distance, but Ethan stood frozen, scanning faces. Rick, at the periphery, face ashen, bolted toward the street. You! Ethan roared, lunging after him. What did you do? Rick spun, hands up. Nothing, Ethan, I swear. But the cops arrived then, badges flashing, and in the chaos, a uniform hauled Rick back, cuffing him on suspicion. Witnesses babbled. Someone saw him near the dumpster earlier, arguing on his phone. Ethan, heart fracturing, pieced it together. Rick, cornered by debts, escalating to arson for insurance payout, framing the agitators to muddy the waters. Jamie pulled Ethan aside as sirens drowned the night, his touch grounding. He's done. You did the right thing, giving him a shot. But this ends now. In the squad car's glow, Rick met Ethan's gaze, tears streaking his face. It wasn't me, he mouthed. Believe me. Ethan turned away, the plea a splinter under his skin. The aftermath clung like ash, gritty and inescapable. Harlan's reopened Monday, scrubbed clean but scarred. Blackened siding patched with plywood. The alley cordoned off with caution tape that fluttered like defeated flags. Customers trickled in with condolences and casseroles, Portland's communal heart on sleeve. A trans elder slipping Ethan a jar of kimchi. A pack of goths donating horror zines for a Phoenix shelf. But the real blaze was internal. Rick's arrest dominated local feeds. Arson, theft, the works. Painting him as a bigot torching his own turf over lifestyle clashes. Ethan read the articles in bed, Jamie's arm heavy across his waist, the words blurring into guilt. Had he pushed too hard for redemption? Ignored the signs for the sake of Harlan's humanism? Jamie sensed it, mornings over oatmeal in Ethan's kitchen. You're not his keeper, Ethan. You built a space for second chances, that's strength, not weakness. Ethan nodded, but the doubt festered, poisoning stolen moments. Their intimacy, once effortless, now carried hesitation. Ethan pulling back mid-kiss, eyes distant. What if I'm the problem? He'd murmur. Drawing fire because I won't hide. Jamie cupped his face, fierce. Then we face it together. You're not hiding anymore. Neither am I. To reclaim ground, they planned a resilience event. Ashes to authors. A weekend of workshops and readings funded by a hasty GoFundMe that exploded overnight. Lena coordinated, her energy a whirlwind. Even Rick's temper placement. A sunny queer vet named Marco brought levity with dad jokes over stock runs. Yet shadows lingered. Anonymous tips flooded Ethan's inbox. Tips fingering not Rick, but a ghost from the forum. Dale Hargrove, a disgruntled ex-customer banned last Pride for harassing a non-binary teen. Dale, it turned out, had a rap sheet, petty vandalism, online harassment suits, and a grudge against Hale's Homo Haven, as his posts ranted. Ethan dug deeper, Jamie at his side over late-night laptops. They traced IP addresses to a rundown duplex in East Portland, Dale's name on the lease. Confront him, Jamie suggested, eyes alight with justice. No, Ethan said, pulse racing. Evidence. Real evidence. They looped in a PI friend of Jamie's, an ex-cop turned freelancer named Ruiz, who tailed Dale for days. Meetings with shady types at dive bars, whispers of payback jobs. The break came Thursday. Ruiz's cam caught Dale at Harlan's back door, dousing rags with accelerant. Proof the fire was his, not Rick's. Ethan's world tilted. Rick. Innocent? The realization crashed like a wave, sweeping away certainties. He bailed Rick out Friday dawn, the precinct's sterile hum amplifying the awkward silence in the waiting room. Rick emerged haggard, unshaven, eyes hollowed by betrayal. You believe me now? Ethan swallowed hard. Yeah, I do. And I'm sorry, for doubting, for the cuffs. Rick's laugh was bitter, broken. Water under the bridge? After you thought I'd burn your life's work. It wasn't you, Ethan pressed, voice cracking. It was Dale. We've got him on tape. Charges dropped today. Relief warred with resentment on Rick's face. A storm cloud cracking. They drove back in tense quiet, rain sheeting the windshield like tears. At the store, Rick paused at the door, hand on the frame. Why'd you hire me, Ethan? Knowing I struggled with all this. He gestured vaguely, the rainbow stickers, the memoir section. Ethan met his gaze. Because Harlan taught me everyone deserves a story rewrite. Yours included. Rick nodded, slow, the wall crumbling brick by brick. Maybe I need that, but I get if you want me gone. Stay, Ethan said. Prove me right. The handshake was rough, real, forged in fire's forge. With Dale's arrest that afternoon, nabbed mid-shift at his warehouse gig, accelerant cans in his truck, the community exhaled. News crews swarmed, but Ethan deferred to Jamie, who spun it into a narrative of solidarity. Harlan's isn't just books. It's us. And we're unbreakable. The event weekend bloomed triumphant. Readings under strung lights, panels on queer history with elders sharing Polaroids from Stonewall-era marches. Rick manned the grill, flipping burgers with a gruff charm that drew laughs. Lena DJ'd a mix of Chapel Roan and classic disco. Ethan and Jamie stole the stage for a duet reading. Excerpts from Maurice, their voices intertwining like fingers laced. Offstage, amid cheers, Jamie pulled Ethan close. This, it's magic. A climax brewed unseen. Sunday Eve, as crowds thinned, Ethan slipped away for air. The alley's chill a reminder. Footsteps crunched. Dale's bail bondsman? No, a figure in the shadows. Rick, phone to ear, voice low. Yeah, it's set. He bought the rewrite hook, line. Tomorrow we clean house. Ethan's blood iced. Eavesdropping from the dumpster's lee, heart thundering. He pieced the treachery. Rick, playing double agent. The theft's his, sure. But the fire? A setup with Dale, insurance scam gone awry. Resentment fueling the frame. Rick's reform, a ploy to stay close. Sabotage from within. Betrayal's blade twisted deep, carving out the humanistic core Ethan had clung to. He backed away silent, tears hot, the store's warmth now a facade. That night, alone, Jamie at a deadline, Ethan paced his apartment, bourbon burning paths down his throat. Call the cops? Confront? Or let it fester? Poison everything? Dawn found him hollow, resolve stealing truth at any cost. Monday morning broke brittle, frost glazing the pavement like shattered glass. Ethan arrived before dawn, the store a vault of echoes, and waited in the office, security feed live on his laptop. Rick clocked in at 7:15 sharp, whistling off-key, oblivious. At 8:30, as Lena and Marco prepped the floor, Ethan buzzed him back. Sit, Ethan said, gesturing to the rickety chair opposite his desk. The air hummed with finality. Rick complied, unease flickering. Everything good? After the weekend, killer turnout. Ethan slid a USB drive across the desk. Plug it in. Watch. The footage played, Rick's midnight visits, now layered with audio from a hidden mic Ethan had planted post-arson. Conversations with Dale, coded plans for the big score. Rick's face drained, then mottled with fury. You spied on me? After everything. Everything. Ethan's voice rose, raw. You stole from me. Set a fire that could have killed people, Jamie, Lena, kids at the reading. For what? Payout? Because you couldn't stomach working for a fag? The slur landed like venom, Rick flinching but rallying. It wasn't hate, Ethan. It was survival. Divorce gutted me, house, savings gone. Dale approached me months back. Said we'd split the insurance if things heated up. I said no at first. Then the debts piled and caved. The forum shit? That was him, stirring hate to make it look personal. I never wanted anyone hurt. Liar? Ethan spat, though doubt wormed in. Rick's eyes held not malice, but a desperate void. You played me. The gratitude, the handshake. All act. Rick leaned forward, elbows on knees, voice cracking. Half act, half real. Seeing you fight, the way you gave chances. It hit me. That's why I tried to back out, told Dale to call it. But he wouldn't, threaten to expose me. Last night, on the phone? Warning him off one last time. Ethan searched his face, the room spinning with half-truths. Pull the cops? Or this messy human confrontation? Harlan's ghost urged mercy, but the wound screamed justice. Prove it, Ethan said finally. Call Dale. Set a meet where a wire. We end this now. Rick paled but nodded, dialing with trembling fingers. The call was terse. Warehouse lot, noon, final terms. Ethan texted Ruiz, the PI gearing up for backup. They rolled out at 11:45. Rick wired under his flannel. Ethan in the passenger seat of Ruiz's unmarked sedan. Pulse a war drum. Jamie, looped in last minute, waited at the store. Be safe, his text read, with a heart emoji that twisted Ethan's gut. The lot was a concrete scar, flanked by rusting semis and chain-link scars. Dale arrived in a battered F-150, burly and belligerent, face twisted in perpetual sneer. You got the cash, Ricky boy? Or we done playing? Rick's voice, mic'd clear, wavered then steadied. No cash, no play. I'm out, and turning you in. Dale lunged, fist connecting with Rick's jaw in a sickening crack. Chaos erupted. Ruiz bursting from cover, Ethan piling out, phone live-streaming to Jamie and the precinct. Dale swung wild, Ruiz tackling him midair, cuffs snapping like fate's jaws. In the fray, Ethan reached Rick, hauling him up, blood slicking his lip. You did it? Ethan gasped, half accusation, half awe. Rick spat crimson, grinning through pain. Rewrite, right? Cost me a tooth. But yeah. Cops swarmed, Dale snarling indictments as they Mirandized him. Arson? Conspiracy? Fraud. The charges stacked like indictments against the darkness they'd unearthed. Rick gave full confession en route to the ER, implicating accomplices. Offense for the stolen books, a hacker buddy boosting bad reviews. The web unraveled, thread by damning thread. By evening, Harlan's glowed with closure. Blue lights fading, community vigils lighting candles in the alley. Ethan sat on the curb with Jamie, who arrived post-stream with blankets and thermos of soup. You okay? Jamie asked, wrapping him tight. Ethan leaned in, exhaustion bone deep. Getting there, Rick. He redeemed it. Messy, but real. Jamie kissed his temple. Like us. Rick's trial came swift, plea deal shaving years. 2 for arson conspiracy, probation for theft. Sentencing day, Ethan testified not for leniency but truth. He betrayed trust, Ethan told the judge, voice steady in the oak-paneled courtroom. But he owned it, chose better. That's worth something. The gavel fell. Time served plus community service at Harlan's, restocking shelves, mentoring at-risk youth on second acts. Rick met Ethan's eyes across the aisle. A nod passing. Gratitude. Absolution. Spring thawed Portland's grip. Cherry blossoms dusting the streets like confetti. Harlan's thrived. Expanded events. A mural by Jamie gracing the facade. Two figures amid blooming pages, hands entwined. Ethan and Jamie built slow. Road trips to the Oregon coast, where waves crashed confessions. Quiet proposals over bookstore counters, rings etched with our story, rewritten. One June Eve, pride flags snapping in breeze. Rick cornered Ethan in the office. "Thanks," he grunted, awkward as ever. "Foreseeing potential. My kid's coming out next month, your nephew's age. Owe you a beer." Ethan clapped his shoulder. "Make it two." And Rick? Welcome home. As the district pulsed with parades, Ethan found Jamie amid the crowd. Their kiss a vow amid rainbows. Betrayal had scarred, but from ashes rose humanity. Flawed, fierce, enduring. In America's mosaic, stories like theirs wove the seams. Not perfect, but profoundly whole.